Hello, welcome to another episode of Texas School Off the Record. I'm your host, Chris Duncan. Today we're joined by Sharon Benton. For more than 21 years, Scot and Sharon have built a photography business centered on creating meaningful experiences for families. They're also the founders of Santa's Enchanted Workshop, a private commissioned Christmas experience in Northern California that's celebrating its 10th season. And this is where an hour with Santa is transformed into timeless, commissioned artwork. Together, they blend storytelling, craftsmanship, and thoughtful design to create experiences where every detail has purpose and every family feels genuinely welcomed.
Yep,
As partners
that's
in marriage and partners in business, Scot and Sharon have discovered that their greatest strength isn't thinking alike, it's thinking differently. Oh, married couples think differently? That's news to me. Sharon dreams it, Scot builds it. Together, their different strengths have allowed them to create something neither could have built alone. So welcome, Sharon. We're so glad to visit with today. And by your own admission, you tell me you have an unusual hobby. Did you
do.
study other exceptional businesses and how they have become unforgettable? So
Yep.
sounds like a fun hobby. Tell us a little bit more about that.
It is. It's interesting since we've started our photography business. We've been doing this for 21 years. And before we started, I loved crafts, design, interior design, that kind of stuff. In fact, little side note, before we started our business, Scot was a mortician for 13 years. And I actually did the flowers for the mortuary, and I did that for 13 years. That's color, balance, placement. It's something I enjoy. It's something that I'm good at. And so when we started our photography business, color, balance, placement, it made sense, and we did that. As we've started our business and we needed to feed our family and pay our bills, my creative energy all went into our business. And so my business is my hobby, but as we got deeper into it and I decided I really wanted this to be a functioning business and to make it pay off, to make it work, I really enjoy looking at other businesses and seeing what is it that they're doing that's causing people to go through their drive-through or causing them to come back repeatedly to have an experience over and over again. I find it fascinating how a really good marketing team or marketing promotion or campaign can make people pause, pay attention, and to respond to what the person who's doing the marketing is wanting them to do. And I find it fascinating, actually. So that's something I enjoy doing.
And so just to clarify, these aren't other photography businesses. These are maybe businesses in your local community or national brands or...
It is. It's a variety of that. I've always been a big Disney admirer. And I know I always preface this with saying, love the company, hate the company. It doesn't matter how you feel about them. There's no denying that what they're doing, they are running a very good business, and they are not out to pull in every single human on the face of the planet into their business. They have a specific market that they're going after. They have people that follow them. They repeat that. They spend the money over and over, and they're enjoying what they provide. I have a local company. It's a clothing store that I went into not long ago, and they have clothing, and they also have these little, they're little collectible mice. They're called Malay mice. They come at a premium price. And I was in there and I just stood back and I watched the people that were coming in. And it was these moms who dressed really nice and their children were in really nice strollers. And so I stood back and I looked at how are they on a street in an old town. It's on a main street in an old little town of Placerville. Why are they finding success when a neighboring store who's selling clothing for half the price is struggling? What are they doing that causes that? So I'm constantly looking. I drive by. In-N-Out Burger is a big thing in California. Super simple menu. They constantly have a line of cars out there drive through until 2:00 in the morning. It's every day like that. That fascinates me. What are they doing? They're selling hamburgers. So are 50 other places within a 1-mile radius. Why do they have a long line and the other ones don't? It's not because their hamburgers are all that much more fast, really fantastic. They're good, but there's certain things that they're doing that's causing people to be drawn to them. And I figure I'm a small company and I don't have millions of dollars to look at market research. And so I immerse myself into those businesses and I look at what they're doing and I try to implement what they're doing and bring that into what we provide here.
So Is there an example you can give us of something you've seen one of these businesses do that you and Scott have implemented?
I do. I actually, so last week we had the opportunity to present at Focus in Florida and spent some time with some fabulous photographers there. And we piggybacked a 3-day visit to Disney World, which is where I get a lot of my inspiration from. I've always got my camera. What's that?
Some research. You can write that off as a research trip now.
It is, but I have to tell you, this particular trip was even more so of a research than any one that we've ever gone on before. And I'll tell you why, because I've always spent time in the parks and I look at their decor. I look at the different, just little things that they'll put on display. And I'm like, oh, that would look really good in Santa's Enchanted Workshop. And I take a picture of it and the way they've done their Fantasyland and the little, the paintings that they have and the detail work. That's where a lot of our inspiration came for the front of our studio. But this time we decided to go to the different properties at Disney World, not just the parks. They have the 4 parks. They have, I think, 33 properties. Well, we went to some of their very exclusive kind of properties, are expensive, and paid attention to what was going on there. But I have to tell you about an experience that I had. I had heard about a boardwalk that I'd never walked on, and it's on the backside of Epcot. And so Scott and I decided to go walk down there and see what was down there. And as we were leaving, a very nice cast member had asked what we were planning on doing. And I said, oh, I hear there's a boardwalk and I wanted to go check it out. She goes, oh my goodness. She goes, definitely. They've got some great restaurants. You can go look at some of the properties over there. They're really great. You need to walk in the lobbies. She goes, but you need to go to a bakery that's there. She goes, it's spectacular. Well, you didn't have to tell me that twice. So as we're walking down this boardwalk, I'm walking next to a family and I'm constantly listening. I know that's probably not correct, but I was listening to this family talk. And the mom said to the children, she goes, and they were like 12, 10, and 8 years old. And they're walking with the mom and dad. And she goes, we're going to go back to the hotel. We're going to swim for a while. Then we're going to eat dinner. We're going to play some games. And then we're going to go back to the park tonight. Well, I have heard families, I'm from California. So a lot of times when people are doing a trip to Disney World, they are going for 10 days. And I've always thought, oh my goodness, I as much as I enjoy being at Disney, that just sounds like way too much to me. But I learned something as I was listening. I always pictured these families going to Disney World and being exhausted in the park and hauling themselves back to their hotel and going back out the next day and doing this for 10 days. What I realized as I listened to this and as I was walking, they weren't leaving the park. Well, excuse me, they were leaving the park. They weren't leaving Disney. Disney has created this bubble. This family was going from Epcot, walking back to their beautiful hotel, taking advantage of everything that's there, walking over to the boardwalk, having some dinner. That is impressive to me. And what are they charging for a night at this hotel? About $1,500 a night. And so I'm standing on the boardwalk and I'm looking around and I can see 5 different Disney properties from where I'm standing. And those hotels have people in them every single day. They are maxed out on a frequent basis. That's impressive to me. And so I learned something from that. One, yes, we hear about the economy and it is struggling. I'm not marketing to every single human on the face of the planet. I'm marketing to a very specific person or family, and they are out there, and people will still purchase things that they want, and they will do experiences for their families. And so that was really important to me. And then I'll share with you as well, as we're walking around the boardwalk, I went into that bakery and I was smitten from the moment that I walked in there. I was enamored with everything that went on in that place. And I just walked around with my camera, and I looked at all the different beautiful things that they were selling in there. And it wasn't a ton. It was done with purpose and meaning. And I walked out. I didn't buy anything. And Scott and I sat on a little park bench. There was a lake right there. We sat there for a while and we talked about it. And I looked at him and I said, I need to go back in. And I went back in and I took more videos, and we had eaten and I didn't buy anything. And so we left, and it stayed on my mind for the next 24 hours. And we had 1 day left, and we were way over at Magic Kingdom the next day. And Scott goes, what do you want to do now? And I looked at him and he knew exactly what I was thinking. He goes, you want to go back to that bakery?
Go back to the bakery.
And I said, I do. I need to experience that bakery again. I need to go in. I need to see, why am I so drawn to that? And I have a whole new idea that I'm introducing to Santa's Enchanted Workshop. It's not just an idea, it's actually an additional product that I'm going to be creating that I'm not just going to offer to my families, but we have what we call an ecosystem in our business. And we have built our little world here of Santa's Enchanted Workshop. And now we are expanding that out of just what we offer here. And so what I learned at that bakery was it's a game changer for me. It just adds another layer of experience for our families, and it's an opportunity to extend beyond what I'm doing here. And I can tell you about that more if you're interested in that, what that was. But I really believe there's inspiration wherever you go. You can be inspired by something to aspire to what they're doing, or you can watch another business and you can go, okay, I can see why they're having an issue, why that's a problem. Because in your ecosystem that you're building, if everything doesn't complement one another, and if everything doesn't work together to support your products, what I do with Santa here supports my products, and how I market to my family support what I'm selling, everything works together. It's not just one great idea that you come up with. It's 100 different ideas that work together to support your business, that create something that keeps people talking about it. Here I am. It's been 5 days or 6 days since I went to that bakery, and I'm still talking about that bakery because it was impactful to me.
Oh. Well, thank you for sharing that story. And I don't think that's an unusual hobby at all. I mean, I think it's admiring what other people put together, and seeing value in that is really fun, and it can be educational as well. But one thing you mentioned, this word ecosystem, I think is fascinating. And you mentioned how you can go to a place and how often it is to see when something doesn't fit. When something is out of place. And,
yes.
And Disney set the mark so high, and that might even seem unobtainable to some of us. Obviously, we're not public. We don't have shareholders. We don't have that kind of budget and money and different things. But, I've studied Walt Disney too. My wife loves Disney. I know y'all have talked about that before and our love affair of the Disney parks, and how nothing feels out of place at Disney. I mean, when you go from one world to the other, like if you don't know Disney, but if you saw someone dressed in a Tomorrowland cast member in a Tomorrowland costume in Frontierland, they would stand out like a sore thumb. Like, what are they doing here? Like, everything is so purposeful, which is the word you used. But why don't we do that in our businesses? Why don't we? But it seems like you're like, I want to embrace this, where everything is purposeful and nothing is out of place.
Yeah. So I'm really glad that you said that. First, I want to say a couple of things. I agree with you. We don't have the budget. You don't have the budget. We don't have the Disney budget. I can't emphasize enough that I did not create this overnight. This was built. We started our business 21 years ago. Our building that hosts Santa's Enchanted Workshop now was built that was our portrait studio. In the back, if you go outside, there's a 40-foot back lot back there. So it's been over time of creating, evolving. But as we were creating and evolving, that's how we were building our ecosystem. And let me tell you, there have been things that have been invited into our ecosystem that didn't last long. We were like, okay, that has to leave. But that word ecosystem, I didn't even really think about it until we launched Santa's Enchanted Workshop Academy. And I was putting everything together because I was hosting photographers, and I could talk about this stuff for days. I have lots of thoughts in my head, but I had to step back, look at my business, organize my thoughts in my head, and organize it in such a manner that I could share it with a group of people. And it took me several weeks to do this. And as I was doing this, and as I was looking at it, it reminded me of a very balanced ecosystem. And after I got done putting that program together, and we got the slideshow all done and the PowerPoint was done, I looked at Scott and I said, I honestly feel like I just went to the best workshop I've ever gone to, because I analyzed my business down to the very littlest, tiniest particle, that I was able to say, this works, this works, this works. This is why it works, because it complements this. And oh yeah, remember that time? Because we made a list of things that didn't work. And then we had to analyze, remember when we did that? And why did that not work? We pulled that out. It's just constantly evaluating your business and making sure that everything complements one another. For example, actually at Texas School. So thinking about going to Disney World and going to like Disney Springs, you could not put a Walmart in Disney Springs. It doesn't fit their ecosystem. You have a certain level of product that's offered there. Malls across the United States are closing left and right. And I think that the challenge is when I was, as I said, at Texas School, the class that I took, we actually went to a local mall, and you'll probably know what it is. I don't remember what it was, but it's a very high-end mall.
Probably
And
North Park.
that's probably what it was. And our homework assignment when we were there was to go to 3 different stores, and we had to take like notes about everything in there. It was supposed to be a low end, medium end, and a high end store. Well, that particular mall, there really isn't any low end. They're all very nice stores. But I went into our low end was Free People, and that's not Walmart clothing. It's, you know, a bathing suit bikini top is $100 just for the top. So they have their followers and they have a price point. And then the store that we went into, the shop that we went into, was a custom designer's clothing store. And that was fascinating to talk to the gals that worked there. The gals that worked there, they weren't just hired to be the manager there. They knew their product. They had gone to every single store, and there's only like 6 of them in the world. And one's like in Paris and the other one's in Japan. These 2 gals that worked there had been in those stores because the owner of that company invested in to what they believed needed to be representing their brand. And so those gals knew their work. But I looked at that mall isn't, you walk down one mall in our area, half the stores are closed. We have another successful mall. In this mall, all the stores are open, and they're all very expensive stores because it's a balanced ecosystem. They're not putting Walmart in there. They're not putting in Spencer's in there. They're keeping it balanced. And I think in our photography industry, it concerns me when I'm talking to another photographer. I get people that call me and ask for advice, and they're like, I want to do the hour-long sessions, but I also want to do like the mini sessions too. And in my mind, now I don't know their business. I'd need to stand back and really analyze the entire thing. But in my heart, just hearing that off the cuff, that doesn't work in the same ecosystem. If you can make that work, great. But I think that's a real challenge there when you're trying to offer a high end and a low end in the same ecosystem. It's confusing to your clients, and it's going to play against you.
So
that's my thought.
Are you interchanging ecosystem for the word? I guess the buzzword is brand. It doesn't fit your brand. But ecosystem seems more involved than just brand to me.
I consider it everything, not just my brand. It's everything. The way I advertise, the way I speak, the words that I choose to talk to my clients, the way I answer my phone, my website. So yes, because I am my brand. I so much so that before I leave the house, I'm just one of those people that I put my makeup on and I'm dressed because I run into clients when I'm out and about. When my phone rings, it's a Christmas ring. I really am not a Christmas fanatic. I'm not. I promise you, I'm not a wacky old Christmas woman. I love my business. And so I'm a Santa's Enchanted workshop fanatic, and everything that I do represents my business. The way I speak, I don't want to get angry at an employee at a store because that represents everything that I've built here. That's who I am. So my ecosystem is everything. It's not just the brand. But I guess what you boil it down to, those are interchangeable words, I guess.
Yeah. Well, ecosystem sounds like you just mentioned more encompassing than just a brand. I mean, Disney, the Disney ecosystem follows you when you're not in Disney, right? You want your business to follow people when they're not physically doing business with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in so much, Chris, that when my families have an experience here, when they leave, I don't want it just when they shut the door. I don't want them to just leave and have it be done. We are providing such a strong ecosystem here that there is literally a bit of magic that is going home with them that they are talking about for days, because everything is very precisely and methodically thought out here. that the things that Santa says, the things that he does, some of the gifts that we send home with them, it is designed so that for a week, that is what they are talking about. And when mom and dad walk back in and I'm introducing them to the art that we've created, they walk back in, it smells like Christmas in here. It sounds like Christmas. They've been doing Cheers Big Ears with their children all week long. There's very specific things. My ecosystem expands out into the families and they become part of my ecosystem. It's so fun. It is so much fun to come up with these new ideas and to dive in and just do them. And we do a lot of diving in on faith. Yeah. And we've got some big things happening. It is our 10th anniversary. I've got so many new things happening this year that I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning. I'm taking notes and I can't,
well, let's talk about a couple of those new ideas. And you mentioned that not every new idea needs to strengthen the ecosystem. It can't just be another product. And so one of these is a person do I call him a person, a thing, a mascot? Oliver Pippin. So, and I would think, does this kind of come off your love of Disney that, Mickey is kind of I don't want to call him a mascot. I want you to introduce Oliver to us, but it seems like.
So let me tell you about Oliver. So is he a mascot? Not really. He's actually, he's part of Santa's Enchanted workshop. When my children were young, we actually had a mouse. It was a little mouse that I bought at JCPenney's, but that was our mouse. And he would sit around and he would listen to the conversations in our home and he would share those good, kind things to Santa Claus. So when my parents fill out the questionnaire about their children, one of the questions we ask is, do you have an elf or an elf on the shelf? And they can put the elf's name. And so when they come and they can actually bring their elf, that's a whole nother thing. But when I'm meeting with the parents, one of my very favorite things is my sales sessions because I love making friends. And I love sitting and talking with the parents. And I always block about an hour and a half per sales session. It takes about 45 minutes to do the sales session. The rest of the time, we're talking about family. We're talking about Christmas. We're talking about hardships and good things that are going on in people's lives. And so I found through the last 9 years, a lot of my parents don't really love Elf on the Shelf, not because they think it's a great concept. It's a stress in their life because in our society right now, having those little elves do all these crazy antics every night can be a little bit challenging. And you're talking to a mom who half the time when my kids lost their tooth, I forgot for several days that I needed to go take care of that. And so to have to do that with an elf every night, that would be a stress. And every year we give a substantial gift to the families that come in early. That's our dangling carrot. And I can give you some ideas of what those were. But what I was thinking a couple of years ago, I was thinking, what am I going to do next year for my dangling carrot, for my gift? And I thought, well, maybe we'll have an elf on the shelf and Santa will present that to the children and they'll do the naming and that'll be really cool. And I actually talked with Elf on the Shelf company and talked about licensing and doing all that. But in my heart, everything that leaves Santa's Enchanted Workshop is positive. And I didn't want to give some families an additional stress in their life by sending home an elf on the shelf. And so I started thinking, my children were raised with Christmas. That's what we called them. Yeah. And so I decided to write a story. And it's beautiful. I absolutely love it. It's the story of Christmas. And he lives here at Santa's Enchanted Workshop. And he has an extra big heart, but he has extra big ears, and he loves to listen to the kindness that happens here. And Santa sees him and he notices him, but he kind of lets him do his thing because Oliver's a little bit quiet and shy and he likes to work in the background. But one evening, Santa picks up Oliver and he just says, "You, my little friend, you are all over my workshop." And so he decides to name him Oliver. And he names him Oliver Pippin because Pippin means small. Well, the name came up because I was talking with my lawyer and I talked about using the word Christmas and we looked into it and he goes, "It's available, but I don't think it's a smart one to go with because you want to make sure that your trademark brands are very specific and it crossed over too much." And so I came up with the name Oliver Pippin and it worked great with my story because Oliver is all over the workshop and now his name is Oliver. But so I've designed this story that what's so fun about this ecosystem thing is we live in this photography industry and we make friends and we admire other people. And so I wanted somebody who could help illustrate my book. And Corey McDonald is actually working on my images for Oliver. And fingers crossed, these are supposed to be done in the next few days so that I can get the book published and get it back. And this will be our gift to my families this year. But Oliver has a very specific meaning. And the nice thing about having something like this is we have people in other states now that recognize who we are. And not everybody can afford to come, and not everybody wants to come. But by having my price tag to come is a higher price tag to actually come in and do the experience. But now I can offer a product at $59.95 that's part of Santa's Enchanted Workshop. It's part of my ecosystem that can still be part of your home, but you didn't necessarily come in for it. Or maybe you brought your children a couple of years ago and you only wanted to do a once in a lifetime experience, but man, you want to have Oliver in your home because he represents what happened here. It's expanding that ecosystem. I have other things that I'm doing that are going to expand that ecosystem. Photographers are so creative. And I feel like they get stuck behind a camera and they're like, that's my photography business. And I have to, and that's what I do is I take pictures and I produce art for people. Okay. But you know what? If you're not thinking outside of that camera box, you are missing out on a lot of fun because that is exciting to me. I'm not a photographer anymore. I'm a curator of an event and a creator of a company. That's the fun part. So
Curator of an event.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
your event is the Santa's Enchanted Workshop.
That's the event. The proof of that event is the art that I create. But the memories that are developing here, that is what I'm passionate about, is that right there.
Yeah.
If you can create that, the art sells itself. I worry about if I'm going to be able to fill my books, just like everybody else does. My calendar, I have to work to get my calendar filled. Once that person's coming in, I am not nervous about them purchasing at all. My stuff sells itself.
Yeah. Well, it's probably no different if we stay on Disney. Like, you'll spend thousands and thousands of dollars to go to Disney, and then you still leave with a shirt or ears or whatever it is, that part of it that stays with you forever. So you've kind of, you said you love to study businesses and you've carried that over into your own small little business. What other ones outside the photography industry? And I think that's so important that we get so tunnel vision, like that I want to learn from a photographer that's done it. I want to, and really some of our marketing should be learned from marketing people that have not been in our industry, or our branding is from this, or how, you learned from this cake shop, right? You went back to this bakery to learn something that you could apply to your business.
I did. And one of the things that I took from that bake shop, something that they do that's their trademark, is all of their offerings that they have is dusted with gold. And it is darling, and it is mesmerizing, and it's her brand. And so I left that place and I sat on that bench and I looked that place up and I'm like, who is this woman? How did this happen? Okay. It opened in 2024. She was invited by Disney to come in. She didn't approach Disney because her ecosystem matched their ecosystem and they wanted her to be part of that because that helps expand their brand. And it's a feel good type of thing. And the other thing that I really loved when I found out about this woman, she's my age. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I don't care how old you are. If you have a passion and a desire, go for it. Don't let your age be something that stops you. But what I also did is I started looking for that gold stuff that she was using on everything. And after I have a meeting with you, I actually found the company that she buys her stuff from. And I have an entire thought process that we are introducing to Santa's Enchanted Workshop. And it's all on that gold stuff. And it is a brilliant idea. It just is, because it makes sense in my ecosystem. It will only complement what I'm doing here. And it's going to be an opportunity for the families to take that home and implement that into tradition into their family. And it'll be unforgettable to them. Yeah. So
you said something I think just made me realize a separation between ecosystem and a brand. A brand is self-contained. An ecosystem goes beyond that. You mentioned that Disney invited this bakery to come in because they've matched up with Disney. So it's this relationship marketing and this relationship economy. And so I would think when you're looking at Oliver Pippin, you're looking at a company that can create it to match your ecosystem. And so it goes beyond just the walls that you've built there, right?
Yeah.
And so I think I'm glad we dove into that a little bit more because that helped me. Hopefully, the listeners understand how an ecosystem goes beyond your four walls.
I share another thought on that.
But please do.
So not only is it the ecosystem part, it to me, I am constantly saying, what if? What if? What if I pay a lot of money to create Oliver and what if this falls flat? But what if I studied the Elf on the Shelf company and they're remarkable. And they started off very similar to what I did. They created this cute little character and a story that went with it and a book that went with it. They've been around for 15 years. Do you know how many books they've sold? How many Elves on the Shelf they've sold? 31 million copies. What if I could sell 1 million Oliver Pippins? What if? I don't know if that's going to happen. Probably not. Maybe so. I have no idea. But if I don't try it, it definitely won't happen. So we did something, Scott and I, this was like 5 weeks ago, and Scott said something. We've always wanted to put cobblestone in front of our studio. It's too expensive. And Scott goes, why don't we just put it out there, and then we could have the families could actually buy a stone, a legacy stone, and become part of Santa's Enchanted Workshop. And I laughed at him. He goes, like Disney. And I laughed at him. I said, oh yeah, all right. And I woke up the next morning and I said, oh my gosh, Scott, wait a second. That's brilliant. This was like 5 weeks ago. Those pavers, I'm like, we're doing this. I'm finding someone. They're out there. And that is part of my ecosystem. Those things are meaningful to families. They will love that. And this is the other thing. We're talking business here. And so I'm going to talk numbers. And I don't like to throw out sales averages. I don't think that's fair to do because I live in a different economy than somebody else does in the middle of, nowhere United States. So we're not going to talk about that. But the fact of the matter is my paver project was $11,000 to hire somebody to pay for the pavers and have everything done. I will be selling those to my families for $125. That's very reasonable for what I'm doing here for that, to have their name engraved and become a permanent part of Santa's Enchanted Workshop. I only have to sell less than 100 of those to pay for the project. That's awesome, right? What if, Chris, what if I sell 500 of them? What if I sell 1,000 of them? That's $125,000. Right. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Just get behind, come out from behind your camera and look around and don't look for the obvious and just start noticing what's around you and what inspires you and who inspires you. Whoever, people like to talk to them, ask them questions. If they don't want to talk to you, maybe they'll tell you, but I don't know. That's the kind of stuff that I love.
I think it's fun and it's fascinating that you've taken just a product y'all started offering 10 years ago, this Santa's, Enchanted Workshop, and you've built that ecosystem around it, even down to the character of Oliver Pippin, to the story of him, to now families buying a memory stone or block in front of your studio. And I know exactly what you're talking about at Disney. You see them, right?
Right.
And we tend to think, I think too many of us, I'm as guilty as anyone, is we think if I wouldn't do it, no one else would do it. We try to put ourselves as our own customer, and really most of the time we're probably not our own customer.
Yes, which is one of the reasons why I didn't stick around doing high school seniors. I was selling to myself and I didn't have the budget for myself. It was really hard for me that's what we were known for. We got to the point where we were being known for as high school seniors, and my families were spending like $2,500. And I would be like, oh my goodness, I think these are important. But for me in my heart, raising 5 children, being on a budget, I was like, they're going to graduate from college soon and they're going to hopefully fall in love and maybe have babies someday. And these pictures are important, but they're not the most important pictures that they're ever going to have. I needed for myself to come up with an idea of what I could be good at, where I could look somebody in the face and I could say, this is worth every penny. And now I have that because for me, the imagery that I'm creating here is you've got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they're coming in and they're having this experience, and it is their time that they cherish with Santa. And all of a sudden they're 15 and they're 18 and they change their minds about the way they feel about Santa. But that is the portrait, and those are the albums, and those are the different items that mom's bringing out every single year. She's hanging it up. She's wrapping it up. She's putting it away safely. She brings it out. That is everything, because there's nothing quite like the nostalgia of Christmas. Easter is awesome. Valentine's Day is a great little accent to the year. But there is something about Christmas that has a different kind of spirit about it. And people long to go back to that time with their children. They long to share those memories with their children. They long to feel the same way they felt when they were a child. And when they're in here and they're 15 feet away and you're the parent, what we've designed here is an experience that's not just for the children, it's for the parents just as much. It is. Yeah. I have a story that I tell. Last year, I had a dad that came in, and I always have Kleenex on the coffee table. And he left, and I went over and was cleaning up. He had 6 wadded up little Kleenexes sitting on there. And he came back in. He was a really good-natured dad. And I said to him, I said, did you have a cold when you came in? And he goes, no, why? And I said, because when you left, I said, there were 6 wadded up Kleenexes sitting right where you were sitting. And he looked at me and he goes, oh, I only stopped at 6 because the box ran out. He goes, that was the most beautiful experience I have ever seen with my children. So it's very emotionally invested in it, because it's very rare that you can get a parent and a child to be 30 years apart in age and feel the same feelings. Disney does it all the time. Walk down Main Street holding your little girl's hand. Yeah. You know what that's like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think all I can say now is congratulations to you and Scott for building that, for building something that makes people pause, pay attention, and remember. That's what you set out to do. I feel like that's what you have done. And you're authentic to yourself. You were inspired by others, but you stayed authentic to who you were. And I'm sure we could talk for another half hour about some things that you might have tried that did not fit in the ecosystem. But maybe that's saved for another time. But before I let you go, I want our listeners know that if this inspired you or got you excited about building an ecosystem around your business, I know Sharon and Scott focus on Christmas and Santa, and they're going to be sharing this experience with you at Texas School at a Saturday class, April 24th, 2027. So tell us a little bit what people might expect in your Texas School class.
I'm glad you asked that. So we are going to talk a bit about the ecosystem, but we're going to take a deep dive into how. How do you create something like this? First, I want to tell you, I do not expect you to go home and create what I have here. I don't want you to do that, because I want it to come from your heart. You will find your own story. You will find what you want to share with others. You're going to sit here and you're going to go, oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. Oh, you know what? Actually, I think I want to do this way. And I want that for you, because I do not believe that I can wrap all this up and hand it over to Chris Duncan and say, here you go, this is how you do it, and have you turn around and be able to produce what I'm doing. It doesn't work that way. You have to be able to be passionate about this. It's going to be exciting when you go and you're at a garage sale and you find an item and you go, oh my gosh, that works in my ecosystem. I can't tell you what that is. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what inspires that. We're going to talk about Santas. We're going to talk about how to train your Santa, what to look for in a Santa, how to have him stand, where his hand goes, what kind of items to bring in, what kind of items are in here that help support your business part where you're selling your art. I'm going to go through as much as we can cram into that one day. And I am also really good about, I'm a phone call away too. Once you're my friend, you're my friend. And I love bouncing ideas off of people.
We're excited to have you at Texas School. I know that you'll be a big hit of the year. So as people are looking at that, where can they also see some of your stuff? Website or Instagram, or maybe want to see this paving project or follow Oliver Pippin?
I'm super excited. We just launched a brand new website, and it's about 90% done. So the pages where are the web page where you're going to be able to buy Oliver Pippin, or for people to order a brick, that's not even quite done yet. We're hoping to get that done in the next couple of weeks. I am in love with my website. Finally, I have a website that represents what I'm doing here. And so santasenchantedworkshop.com. You can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook as well. As my year approaches, I put a lot of videos out giving behind the scenes and that type of stuff. And it's funny because when I go to other photographers who are offering Santa type photography, I can tell that they're watching what we're doing here because I can see elements that I'm like, oh, good, they're doing that. Oh, they got that. And so you'll get inspired by the things here. And the thing that is so much fun is you're not just going to get inspired by me. You're going to get inspired by the other people in the class because I'm just not up there preaching. I want to hear, what do you have to say? What are your thoughts? How can we all improve this? How can we elevate this together so that it's meaningful for something that can be passed on as a legacy to other people?
I think that's fantastic, and it's really exciting. And I'm glad that you're part of the Texas school ecosystem. One of our core things is quality education and quality people. So you and Scott fit right into that.
Thanks.
We're excited for that. Again, you can learn more about her class at texasschool.org. It's going to be April 24th, 2027. Again, Sharon Benton of Santa's Enchanted Workshop, thank you so much for spending time with us today. And I can't wait to see what's next in your ecosystem and how the story unfolds.
Thanks. I appreciate it.